was highlighted by another MP, an Iranian Belgian.
Hi guys, welcome back. Thanks for clicking. So we're going to be checking out a video titled "100 of Muslims Gathered to Pray on the Streets of Toronto." Wow, amazing. Let's check it out.
My next guest is an Iranian-Canadian politician from Ontario who gave a speech that went viral recently. Goldy Ghemari spoke out about how her family escaped Iran after the Islamic Revolution turned the country into an Islamist hellhole, particularly for women. Her family sought and were granted refuge in Canada, but in a speech that's been shared far and wide, particularly by members of the Jewish community, she spoke of how she's seeing signs of that ugly ideology she fled in the West, in Canada, where even before Israel's counter-offensive, crowds gathered to celebrate Hamas's horrific attack against Israeli civilians on October 7. Let's have a look.
When my parents immigrated to Canada in 1986, I was a year old. And the reason that they immigrated to Canada from Iran is because in 1979 there was an Islamic revolution, and our once free and democratic country was taken over by radical Islamists, was taken over by terrorists, and was taken over by fascists. And we were blessed to be able to come to Canada to escape that hatred, to escape that radical, fundamentalist, Islamo-fascist ideology. And that's the same regime, Madam Speaker, that denies the Holocaust. That's the same regime that spreads anti-Semitic information and propaganda, not just inside the Islamic regime of Iran, but around the world, and through its proxies, like Hamas and Hezbollah and others. And I happened to come across this pro-Hamas celebration, this pro-Hamas rally. It was the first time in my life that I'd ever felt uncomfortable as a Canadian. The hate, the anger, the way they were marching, the chants they were making, that's something you see in the Islamic regime in Iran. You do not see that in Canada. That's the kind of behavior you see in radical fundamentalist countries, not in Canada. That is not the Canada that my parents immigrated to. That is not the Canada that we were raised in.
Goldy Ghemari joins me now. Goldy, has Canada changed? Have you imported and fostered the same ideology your parents fled?
Exactly.
Well, hi, Rita. Thank you so much for having me on, first of all, and thank you to everyone who's watching and listening. So the Canada that my parents immigrated to in 1986, I feel like it's not the same Canada that we're witnessing today.
It's different.
My parents came here to escape a radical Islamofascist ideology. They came here because they wanted to live in a free, democratic, and secular society. And growing up, we had no problem integrating into Canadian society. My parents embraced Canadian values. My parents embraced Canadian culture and secularism, and the Canadian ideas and ideology and beliefs that we respect everyone. We're here to be Canadian first and foremost, and we are here because we want to be peaceful, and we want to live our lives free of government control. And it doesn't mean that you have to forget about your heritage or your language or your culture or your customs, but what it means is that you leave the hatred and the baggage of your home country behind, because we come here to live in a peaceful, democratic society.
Absolutely. And Goldy, we've seen these anti-Israeli rallies around Canada, around the Western world. We've seen posters of kidnapped children torn down. And in Canada and elsewhere, we've seen the flag of Hamas's biggest backers, the Iranian regime, flying high. And this footage of thousands of Muslims lining the streets of Toronto to pray together was highlighted by another MP, an Iranian Belgian this time, Daria Safai, whose family, like yours and mine, escaped Iran. And she said what looks peaceful and innocent is, she said, a political and social message. She called it a power display. And she also noted the strict gender apartheid that means there are no women among that groups. What's your response to that? Is that something that should be concerning Canadians, these overt displays of people praying in the street?
100%. Absolutely. This should be very concerning. It is concerning to me. It is concerning to many Iranian Canadians. It is concerning to the Iranian diaspora around the world. So we have been sharing footage of the protests within Iran. And one of the ways that the terrorist Islamic regime in Iran, this Islamo-fascist regime, responds to pro-democracy Iranians within Iran who are fighting for freedom and democracy is they will take over their spaces and they will pray in front of them. And for a lot of people, they'll think, oh, well, they're praying, they're being peaceful, but it's not. This is a sign of conquest. This is a sign of power. And it is very concerning and it is very frightening to see these radical Islamo-fascist ideologies abusing the freedoms and the charter, like within Canada, for example, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, the Canadian Constitution, to say that, oh, what's the problem? We're just praying on the street. No, you're not praying on the street. You are participating in an unsanctioned rally. You are blocking traffic. You are taking over the streets. You are not allowing peaceful Canadians to just walk through and use public spaces. And you are using this as a tool of colonialization and conquering within this radical Islamo-fascist ideology. And the really frustrating part is that when the Iranian diaspora speaks out about this, we're accused of being Islamophobic, we're accused of being racist, and it's not that at all. Like, this is the reality of Iranians. This is the literal reason why we came to Canada. It's to escape that terrorist flag you see right there, that Allahu Akbar flag, which has nothing to do with Iran. We fly the lion and sun flag. There's a reason that Iranian women were named, were given the Nobel Peace Prize. There's a reason that Iranian women were named the Time Hero of the Year by Times Magazine. There's a reason that Sherbin Hajipour won that award within the Oscars. People realize this, and yet the fact that we're seeing this radical Islamo-fascist ideology sort of ingrained within Western democracies is very concerning, not to us, but it should be very concerning to everyone who lives in Canada, Australia, United States, and in European countries.
Well, powerful, guys. No, one thing I like when it comes to religion is unity. Unity is powerful. Unity is life. Unity is togetherness. When you reunite, you can enforce a lot of things. You come together as a group to become one. But this lady actually said a story about what her parents went through when they were in Canada around 1980 something, concerning Islam, the challenges they faced, and now years later she said Canada has changed. You know, it was not like before. And they showed us a clip in which people were praying in the streets of Toronto, praying for, for the Palestinians. You know, prayer is the key. Prayer is the solution. It might take time, but surely the prayer to yield to results. That was a beautiful one. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.